Hello, today is Thursday, the 2nd of December. My name is Alicia Edmond and I'm Head of Public Policy, and we are joined by Danny Webster, who's Head of Advocacy. And last week we spent an hour with you going through the conversion therapy consultation. And we've had so many emails and so many queries about could we have the video. So what we're going to do is we're going to condense that hour into a shorter version, enabling you to go through it at your pace. So as was mentioned, the deadline closes on Friday, the 10th of December at 11:45 p.m. So please do try and get your responses in before then. This is a consultation that is specific to England and Wales, but invites responses from across the nations. And this is an opportunity for the Government Equalities Office and the government to hear directly from churches, church leaders, youth workers, parents about their concerns about the banned conversion therapy consultation. What's going to happen is the consultation is going to happen this side of Christmas, and then in the new year, there will be draft legislation for which our team will be actively engaged in. We're going to have an opportunity to go through the consultation. There'll be screen sharing, there'll be slides. And as always, just to say, once you've opened the link, which is available on our website to the consultation, you're able to save and come back and finish at any opportunity. So if we can move to the screen slides for us, team. This is the first and opening page that you should see, and again is available on our website. There's an opportunity to fill this in as an individual person or as an organization capacity. And as you move through the sections, the government are asking some details, some questions about you, about where you live, where you're feeding in this consultation response, your age, and we leave it to you, to your discretion, to fill in and talk about that. I'm going to hand over to Danny, who's going to fill in or talk more about our overarching position as an organisation on this consultation.
Thank you, Alicia. So our position in relation to conversion therapy, and we've said this over several years, is that we support action that addresses forced or coercive practices. These are things that shouldn't take place, and much of it is already covered by the law, but we support the government taking action to tackle abusive and coercive practices. But as they do that, it is vital that people are able to access and receive the spiritual support that they want and that they choose to receive. So contributing to this consultation is your way of encouraging the government to follow along those lines. As Alicia said, the first section of the consultation covers a lot of demographic information, your age, where you are. It takes a bit of time to fill those in. On most of those questions, you have to submit a response, but there's usually an option to say, prefer not to say. Once you've got to the end of those questions, the first substantive question that you get to in the consultation is for your overall views on the government's proposals to end conversion therapies. There's a multiple choice question, and you can answer on a scale between strongly agree and strongly disagree, or you can tick prefer not to say. The proposals are complex. They cover some things that we think are worthy of support and other areas that we have a lot of questions over. So it may well be best to answer either to say you prefer not to say, or to say neither agree nor disagree. And there is then an open box below that gives you an option to say a little bit more about why you have answered this and what you think. This is a chance for you to express your thoughts about the government's proposals. It's perhaps worth saying at this point that you support the overall intent where the government are seeking to address coercive and abusive practices. But it's also worth using this opportunity to say that the government shouldn't be restricting people from receiving spiritual support or care. You should say that it's important that people are able to access that support and able to protect the rights of churches to provide pastoral care and to pray with people if that's the support that they choose. If you then go on to the next question, it addresses physical acts of conversion therapy. In the government's consultation document, they look at this, and what they say is that in this area, these are activities that are already criminal, where abuse takes place, where people are forced against their will into practices. This is about drawing together the law. This is about adding an enhanced sentencing regime when these actions have taken place in an effort to try and change someone's sexual orientation. We think that as Christians, we should oppose all forced and abusive activities. So we're supporting these measures. And this is an opportunity for you to answer this question and then to add any other comments on this. You may want to talk about how, as Christians, we should treat all people with dignity and respect, how we should respect people's livelihoods and their dignity, and actually how we should treat people with care and compassion. The next page goes on to talk about talking conversion therapies. This is the most substantive area of the consultation as far as we're concerned, and this is the bit that we'll take the most time to respond to. As we go through this, you can pause this video at any time to write a little bit more and then come back to it to further add information for your answers. Under the proposals around targeting talking conversion therapy, there are 3 multiple choice questions and then an open text box beneath. The first question asks whether you agree with the proposals to tackle talking conversion therapy. What the government are proposing is that people over the age of 18 who have the capacity to consent are able to access talking conversion therapies if they are not coerced. There are questions, and we'll come on to this in a moment, about how they define these practices and how people are able to give consent. But the proposals here are relatively complex, so do take some time to look. We've got some information on our website around these. We're going to suggest perhaps answering neither agree nor disagree, or you prefer not to say in response to these. The second question then looks at the penalties being proposed. These are criminal laws that are being proposed, so potentially the penalties are quite severe. So you may want to express a view on the proposed penalties. The third question asks whether the proposals miss anything. We're going to answer don't know on these because we're concerned that if we say yes, that could be used by those who are advocating for a much wider ranging ban. But we don't want to say no because we don't think the proposals are perfect either. The final question on this page is an open text box. And although it says there, if yes, can you tell us what you think we've missed? We've clarified with the government. And regardless of how you've answered the above question, you can fill in this box to add to this answer. This is the time where you might want to take some time to respond to this question, but here are a few things that you might want to say in response to this. You might want to challenge the government to provide a clear definition of what they mean by conversion therapy. One of the problems with this proposal and with the discussion around conversion therapy over the last few years is that there is not clarity about what is meant by conversion therapy and what practices will be called. We think it's vital the government give real clarity and there's real certainty for people to know whether they're going to be engaging in actions that would potentially be caught under this new law. We think the government should provide examples of things that are not going to be caught. We do not think that the pastoral care that churches provide to people should be captured within this. We do not think that praying for someone when they want support should be caught by this. We think supporting voluntary activity is vital. We think it's important to emphasize that these are activities people choose to engage in. If people want to receive pastoral care, if they want to receive prayer from someone in their church, they should be able to receive that support. So it's worth saying to the government that these things should not be captured within a definition of conversion therapy. We think the threshold of coercion is an important one, so that if people are coerced into activities, that is against the law. But the definition and the requirements for this need to be really clear. And the government are suggesting loosening some of the language around coercion. So we think that needs to be rigorous. So if someone has been coerced, that can be proved and that can be shown to be wrong and against the law. But if it's not happened, people aren't inadvertently caught. When they think someone has willingly engaged in activity, they're not caught by this law. And the final thing you might want to say in this area is around the proposals and how they will relate to people who are under 18. The government are suggesting a total ban on people under 18 being able to receive talking conversion therapies. The problem with this is that with a wide definition of what could potentially be captured as a talking conversion therapy, it potentially means that pastoral care, that guidance, that support for young people could be restricted. We think this could end up stopping churches from providing support to young people who are LGBT and come to church, who want to live lives that are in accordance with what the Bible teaches, and want support and they want prayer to help them do that. We think it's vital that churches and youth ministries have the protection to be able to provide that support. So you might want to say that any restriction on provision of services to those under 18 must not capture this vital spiritual support that young people receive. Once you've finished filling in this box, and as I say, do pause the video at this point because I imagine this is the area that will take the most time to respond to. There are then a series of other provisions being proposed in this consultation. Some of these address broadcasting and communications. The government largely think that the measures they currently have in place are sufficient. You may want to answer these questions, or you can say prefer not to say. There is also an opportunity to add more comment. They also then talk about protection orders for people being taken overseas. If you have anything to say about that, you can respond to that. There are questions around charitable status. And we think if this law is done well and done right, there isn't a problem with saying that someone who is guilty of a criminal act may have consequences to whether they're able to serve as a trustee or a senior leader in a charity. But if this is done badly, and if this captures too much in regards to what churches do in their everyday activity, this is problematic. So you may want to add a word of caution in that note. And when you get to the end, there are a number of other questions. Most of them you can say, prefer not to say if you don't have anything to say to them. You come to a question about the equality impact assessment. The government has a responsibility to consider how all policies they introduce affect people across a range of characteristics covered in the Equality Act. There are two things here worthy of mention. Firstly, it's important to say that these policies could have a disproportionate impact on people of faith. Because of the spiritual care and spiritual support that people receive, it's important that people are able to access this and that is protected and not affected by this policy approach. But secondly, it's also worth saying that these proposals could have a disproportionate impact and an unfair impact on people who identify as LGBT. Because they stop support and prayer potentially being received by LGBT young people, that is a disproportionate and it's an impact on people who identify in that way as opposed to people who don't. So it's worth commenting that actually, although these proposals are designed to protect and to support people who are LGBT, it could have the opposite consequences. Christians who are committed to living their lives according to what the Bible teaches could not be able to receive pastoral care if they are LGBT. So this is an important question to respond to. The final question that the survey asks is around confidentiality. You are able to tick yes if you want to have your answers remain confidential. One important note is that if you are answering on behalf of an organisation, even if you tick yes to the confidentiality question, the name of your organisation will be listed in the eventual government response to this. So just be aware that your organisation name will be listed in that final government publication, although the answers that you give won't be. If you're responding as an individual, all of your information will be kept confidential. I'm going to hand back to Alicia now.
Thank you very much, Danny. And thank you so much to our members, individuals, church leaders who have engaged with us on email, attending webinars, and just really concerned about this issue, but also proactive in this. A reminder that it closes on Friday, the 10th of December at 11:45 p.m. Any questions or any further information of the wording, please do visit our website, eauk.org.uk. And thank you for continuing the journey with us. Take care and God bless.